All right, welcome into Starting Nine here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. You get all of our other content. Tonight, of course, there's a Heat game, so I'll be down there with Brady Hawk, and we'll be bringing you Before Floor an hour before the game. They play Oklahoma City. We do not anticipate that Jimmy Butler will play, but you know that already if you've been checking out the Off the Floor subscription string that we put out there every day on Twitter. Also, make sure you check out 5reasonsports.com for the latest takeaways from Brady and others. That does not have a paywall. And, of course, Post Up 5R will be on this channel as soon as the game ends tonight. We're going to talk Dolphins today, though. Make sure you check out yesterday's episode or earlier in the week's episode on the Heat. We're sponsored today by our friends over at Get Salis. I got the box wrong. Get Salis. There you go. They got these little packets inside. Okay, this is to replace your electrolytes, all right? So, essentially, when you run, when you swim, you sweat, right? Okay, especially if it's like a long race or I've been going for a long time. You got to get this stuff because it's better than Powerade or Gatorade or any of that in terms of replacing the electrolytes in a healthy way. Okay, you don't want to pound all that stuff, get bloated, all that sugar. Try Salis. That's the actual name of the brand, but it's getsalis.com. That makes it pretty easy. They tell you the whole story there on the website. And here's the great thing. You get 10% off if you just enter the code 5RSN. And they don't have codes really for anybody else. So it's 5RSN. That's the number 5 RSN. And go to getsalis.com. Just try it. I can tell you they're not expensive. I know we have some other products that are a little bit more expensive than we promote with this code, which is why the percentages are higher in terms of the discount. This one is not expensive. Okay, it's worth trying the 8 packets. All right, let's get to it. It feels like all the teams in South Florida are in action right now, even if they aren't, right? Like the Heat are playing. The Panthers are playing on and off the ice. They may make a major move today. They're obviously involved in the Claude Giroux situation. For those who are not familiar, it's kind of be like acquiring Kyle Lowry. He's 34 years old, longtime pro, makes players around him better, has been a team captain for a while. It's kind of the heart and soul of the Philadelphia Flyers, but they're awful this year. He's still scoring at nearly a point a game pace, and the Panthers are trying to make a move. Bill Zito is close, according to a lot of reports, and this would be a significant move, and it's an all-in move, apparently, because it looks like he's going to have to give up some good players to get him, but the Panthers think that they can win a cup this year, so it's worth Tippett, who struggled at times, more picks and other players. We'll see if that happens, okay? Then you have the Marlins, and everybody's just waiting to see if they keep their word. Right? Like nobody's remembering the Wendell move or the other moves that they made prior to the lockout. They were supposed to come out of the lockout with guns blazing here because Bruce Sherman said Derek Jeter didn't leave because of money. We're going to spend money. They haven't spent any money yet. Now it's early, and I'm going to get to that with the Dolphins situation too, but you want to see something, right? They need a center fielder. And then there's the Dolphins. And the same thing's kind of happening now with the Dolphins. Thank you, Shake. We appreciate it. I hope you cover the Dolphins full time. I did that for years, Shake. I'll get to that story here a little bit later. I did that for years. I covered the Dolphins before I covered the Heat, and I covered them for a while. But I got to be honest, it just wasn't fun after. I mean, when you go into a season knowing like your coverage is not going to get promoted because you're not going to be covering a playoff team, and on the other side, the Heat have just acquired LeBron James, but I'll get to more of that later. But when you look at the Dolphins and you look at the Marlins, okay, I think there are some similar things going on here, and you can hear it coming from the people who do cover those teams on a daily basis, because from covering the team on a daily basis, as I did with the Heat, did with the Dolphins, and I've done with some others, you get to know what spin is because you're the one who's spun. Right? Okay, so there is this cycle that goes on, and we're going to bring Louis Sung on here in a few minutes, but there's this cycle that goes on when teams are trying to make moves but either won't or can't, okay? And what they start to do, what people inside the organization start to do is they start to spin the people who cover the team so that they help the fans feel better about what's not happening, okay? And I feel like that is happening with both the Marlins and the Dolphins. Here's why I say this, okay? And I'll give you a quick Heat example first. I spoke to Heat people this offseason about their backup situation at small forward and point guard. And they spun me. This is highest levels of the organization, okay? I mean, I'm not going to tell you who, but it's highest levels, all right? They spun me about Gabe Vincent and Max Strus because they weren't going to do anything else, right? Like they were not going to go over the luxury tax. They spent their money on Kyle Lowry, right? They re-signed Jimmy Butler to the huge extension. They were not going to do anything else. And so all of a sudden it becomes spin here where we're comfortable with Gabe as a backup point guard. We're comfortable with Max as a backup 3. But see, here's the difference between the Heat and the Marlins and the Dolphins, okay? The Heat have earned that credibility with me and everyone else. So when they say to me, look, we know Gabe hasn't shot the ball well at the NBA level. We know that he's been a good shooter at the G League level, but we changed his shooting mechanics. He struggled with a little bit, but we've been encouraged by the other things he's done. We think he can handle it. I don't roll my eyes, okay? I hear them out. Now, could they have been spinning me? Were they totally 100% comfortable in Strus and Vincent as rotation players? Probably they were spinning me a little bit, and probably they weren't 100% comfortable. But ultimately, when I get off that phone call, I'm like, okay, if I sell this to the people who trust me to cover this team, I'm probably not going to look like an idiot, right? Because the Heat have a pretty good record of developing players. And when they believe in a player, the player typically becomes something. When Eric Spoelstra said that Duncan Robinson was one of the best shooters in the world, and we were like, wait, that's a rotation player? He was right. Whatever you think of Duncan, he's one of the best shooters in the world. He was a rotation player. There's a level of credibility here. There is a track record. The Dolphins and Marlins don't have that track record. The Marlins don't have a track record of spending. The Dolphins don't have a track record of choosing wisely, right? New coach aside, the general manager is the same. And so that's why what's happened the past couple of days to me is a little bit troubling with both teams. You have people who cover the Marlins, and I know people are not here for Marlins talk, so I'm not going to dwell on it, okay? But like you have people who cover the Marlins who all of a sudden are starting to talk up some of the center field options on the team. Well, why is that happening? They don't have a center field option on the team unless they move Chisholm there. Why is that happening? Because it doesn't look like they're going to go get one. And then yesterday, and look, this is no offense to any of the beat guys who are doing their job. They're reporting what Greer said at the Combine. But this thing now about how Chris Greer believes that better coaching and better scheme will somehow make this a quality offensive line if they don't go get a veteran, that felt to me when Marcel tweeted that out, and he's new to the beat, but I follow him. I trust his work. When he tweeted that out, that struck me as spin. That's the organization preparing the fan base for doing nothing. And I'm sorry, the rest of this stuff, some of which was needed. A couple of fullbacks, I like it, okay? Another receiver with some upside and Cedric Wilson, who might actually stay on the field, unlike everybody else that they have other than Waddle, I like it. Re-signing most of the play. I mean, Agba, I liked it. Franchising Gesicki, I liked it. Okay. Re-signing like every linebacker who never made a play for you last year. I don't get what that is, but okay, whatever. Doesn't keep you from doing anything else. It's depth, I guess. Not trading X so far. I like it. But none of that stuff matters if they don't fix the damn offensive line. That was the primary problem on this team last year and pretty much every year of my lifetime since the days of Richmond Webb, with the exception, okay, of a couple of years where they got some credible line play for some guys that they, by the way, spent some money on, okay, before they got hurt. Grove, Smiley, you go back to, I mean, some of the offensive linemen they found. Mark Dixon solidified their line for years. They got him from the CFL. That was probably the best move that Jimmy Johnson ever made on offense. They have struggled with this for years. So now all of a sudden we have the reporters who, again, are just reporting what they're being told, coming out and saying, Chris Greer thinks that with better coaching, these guys can develop. Is he right? Like the Heat were right about Vincent and Strus? Maybe. I mean, none of those guys were, I mean, Austin Jackson was considered to be a reach, okay, but It's not like those guys were supposed to be undrafted. They were all draftable players. Robert Hunt is a good player. He's the one. Maybe Eichenberg, who was supposed to be ready for prime time when he came in because of his background, maybe with better coaching, perhaps. I saw him getting beat one-on-one all the time. Is that coaching? I don't know. Austin Jackson in a new position, maybe back to his old position. I mean, who knows? Okay. Dieter was better last year, but the overall offensive line was awful. You cannot spin that. And here's the problem with this. Okay. If you're basically saying that with better coaching, you would have been better off. I mean, you were there last year when the coach was put in place. And by the way, he's still there. Now he's in an assistant role behind the primary offensive line coach. Perhaps he's a guy they think can get better with more seasoning. Okay. That feels to be the same as what they're doing, talking about the offensive linemen themselves. And again, I'm going to frame this way. Okay. And I think we're going to see Lewis here in a second. I'm going to frame this way. Okay. If somebody in the high levels of the Heat organization was telling you this, you would believe it. Okay. You would believe it. But with the Dolphins, they have to prove it. And this is a risky prove it. Like if they get Collins, okay, it solves some problems. They've added one player to the line. They add a second. It solidifies it. You need to have veteran offensive linemen. I would rather have a veteran offensive lineman who has proven he can play, who's a little bit beaten down by the battles, okay, who doesn't have the athletic upside of some of the young kids, than have all young kids on the offensive line. It is not a position. This is like telling a 12-year-old, okay, here, not only do you not need a license, okay, to drive, here's a Maserati. Have fun. Okay? You can't do that with this position. You need somebody who knows how to drive, okay? Even if they're going to drive 42 miles an hour in a 55. You need somebody who knows how to drive. This line doesn't have enough people who know how to drive. And so this whole thing is setting up for exactly what we saw the past couple of years, which is that we're going to end up at the end of the season basically debating Tua again. Just like we debated Tannehill with the exception of 1 year. This is just an endless cycle. You have not added an elite receiver for Tua this offseason. Okay. You didn't go get a Devontae Adams, right? You got a guy who's a pretty good player. Okay. And looks like he's got a little bit more upside, but I mean, he's not going to make a Pro Bowl. You've added a couple of running backs who are kind of middle of the pack starter running backs, it looks like. I mean, Edmonds has a very good yards per carry. Mostert played well when he was healthy. But, I mean, you haven't added Barry Sanders. The point is, the most important thing for Tua this offseason, if you weren't going to add elite skill people, was to add offensive linemen who know how to play. Manny, am I surprised? They've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. And that's why I won't be surprised, Manny, when it doesn't work out. When we say the Heat have been doing something for 20 years, it has a good connotation. Boy, they've been finding guys for 20 years. Anthony Carter is on the Heat's coaching staff, okay? Whatever, again, Anthony Carter didn't develop into the player that everybody wanted him to be when he was paid, which, by the way, looking back, wasn't that much money, okay? And he's best known for his contract not being filed in time, and then the Heat were able to get Shaq, right? But Anthony Carter had a good pro career. Anthony Carter was found by the Heat in 1999, okay, because Pat Riley was sitting up in his office at LaSalle. They used to have a little perch where he could watch the practice. It was at LaSalle High School, okay? And he was watching this kid who came out of school, undrafted, and his team was beating Tim Hardaway's team in every, open run, every scrimmage. And that guy, Anthony Carter, ended up winning a playoff series for the Heat. Okay, he started all 3 games in place of Tim Hardaway. This is the famous Grant Hill ankle series that ruined Grant's career. And Anthony Carter had a good pro career and is now an assistant with the Heat staff. The Heat have been doing this, finding guys for 20 years. Ike Austin, Malik Allen, Mike James, Udonis Haslem, 2003, Joel Anthony. Now it's Strus and Vincent, and it was Whiteside before they overpaid him, and Tyler Johnson and Rodney Magruder and Caleb Martin now, right? They've been doing this for 20 years. When you say the Heat have been doing something for 20 years, it's like, oh, okay, good. They'll do it again. When Manny comes on here, and rightly so, says the Dolphins have been doing this for 20 years, you're like, oh, God. That's the difference. And that's why I don't trust this. I think we're going to be having these same conversations in 8 games in that we did last year. Why didn't Greer invest all of his resources on an offensive lineman? I don't know the mechanics of what Dallas was looking for in a trade, okay? But the reports were, and from somebody I trust, Todd Archer, who's the best at covering that team, okay, used to cover the Dolphins, Todd thought it was the 4th-round pick. Wouldn't it, and I'm going to get to that comment, Chuck, wouldn't it have been smart for the Dolphins to have flipped the 4th-round pick to make sure they didn't have to compete for this guy in free agency now that he's visiting the Bengals when you knew the market was limited? Look, if they get him, Armstead, then this is a totally different conversation. And then I come on and I'm like, okay, I was an idiot. They knew what they were doing all along. And that is possible. But again, what I'm talking about here is benefit of the doubt. They do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. The Marlins do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. The Heat deserve the benefit of the doubt. And you know who else deserves the benefit of the doubt right now? The Panthers. Because people, like Panther fans, were freaking out because they think Bill Zito overpaid for a left defenseman, okay? And he probably did. But he also got the team that was trading him to absorb $2.5 million of the cap, which is now allowing him to make a secondary move, perhaps to get Claude Giroux, who is the captain of the Flyers, who is like a final piece on a championship type team. And what I said at the time when they made the first trade was just trust Bill Zito. Because what we've seen over the past 2 years is the guy knows what he's doing. He's put together the deepest roster in the NHL. The only thing he hasn't really fixed is the goaltending, which has been better this year, but that wasn't him that paid Bob all that money. There are 2 organizations in town that, for me, right now, earn the benefit of the doubt. There are 2 right now that don't. They have to prove it. All right, we're going to see if Lewis hops in here, and then if not, we're just going to take your comments the rest of the way. Do want to tell you about another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. It is our friends over at Signs Broward of Fort Lauderdale. That's Signs Broward, FortLauderdale.com, or on Instagram. They do great work, which you have seen, by the way, if you live here in Broward County for sure, and other places in South Florida. If you've been on Las Olas, you've seen their signs, Piazza, etc. 954-791-8685. This is the one-stop shop for everything signs. They do the indoor signs, the outdoor signs. They do the sign repair. They do pretty much everything. And again, they post this on their IG, so make sure that you check that out. That's at Signs Broward in Fort Lauderdale. They're based right here downtown. Also, if you got a trade show, you got to get ready for that. They can do your sign for that too. They just do a very clean, solid job, right? Like that's what you want an offensive lineman to do these days for the Dolphins. They do it over at Signs Broward, and they'll get your place looking good, getting attention, and all that good stuff. So give them a call. Mention 5 Reasons, though. 954-791-8685. 954-791-8685, or go through the website. But when you talk to them, mention 5 Reasons because they'll make sure you get a discount. All right, we don't have Lewis yet, so why don't we do this? Manny, throw up some of the comments, and let's just get to them. And honestly, if you're here for Heat stuff, I'll touch on that too. Okay, this comes in from Ethan, but not me. Probably have about $30 million after cuts. What are we going to do with the $30 million? I assume they're going to use it. Has to be one tackle, if not fire Greer on the spot. I mean, again, that would be my reasonable assumption too. The problem is it's a tight market with offensive linemen. Like there were 2, as one like elite type guy and one that like has turned into something close to elite. And there wasn't a whole lot of depth in free agents. And that's why, to me, if you have all this draft capital that you talk about and you've got a team that's trying to just recover something for the player, I don't understand, and maybe it'll be explained, although probably not, because the Dolphins do their business in silence. Although with McDaniel, that's getting better, so he might just tell everybody. But I don't understand why you wouldn't flip a pick and just make sure you're going to acquire the players. Sometimes that is the cost of doing business. I get back to Bill Zito with the Panthers. He gave up a prospect and a first-round pick, okay, for a left defenseman who is considered to be pretty average, okay, but has playoff experience. But they needed one. Like they needed one. Like the Panthers have had a hole at that spot on defense the whole year, if you follow them at all. And so there is something just called the cost of doing business. That's what it is. All right. Do we have another one, Manny? Chalk, even with the money, Miami is not that destination anymore. Players talk and want to win. I think it's an interesting conversation because this is kind of the if you follow the Heat you follow us on Twitter, you know that we make fun of Justin Termini all the time. He's this talk show host from Sirius XM NBA who likes stirring up Heat fans by saying stupid things like anybody can win in South Florida and Pat Riley's not that great. And then everybody's like, well, what about the Marlins and the Dolphins? Like and until this year, like the Panthers, what has been the issue there? I mean, the reality is like to be a destination place, state tax, beautiful beaches, which by the way, let's talk about the beaches then. No, the players go. When's the last time you saw one of the players on the beach? Okay. They're going inland. Okay. I never understood that. But the point is that like, just like being here is not enough. And I know that some are going to say, okay, that let's say that Collins ends up in Cincinnati where his old coach was. Okay. But I know people are going to say, okay, he went there because, he wants to win and they just went to the Super Bowl and Burrow has been proven to be better than Tua so far. I know this is going to come back to be a Tua conversation. What I'm saying is, like, you have to overpay sometimes. You have to, whether it's, again, with draft capital or with money, you have to overpay to get you like the Dolphins have to stop thinking of themselves. I said this like 15 years ago. The Dolphins have to stop thinking of themselves like a destination. They have to think of themselves, okay, like they're Indianapolis. All right. Like they have one street and they're known for one steakhouse. I've been to Indy many times. I know it's more than one street, but barely. Okay. Like they have to stop thinking of themselves like, and for years they thought of themselves in the way of like, even in this market as being the primary destination, like over the Heat. And it was this arrogance that like, I think hurt them for years because there was this like really well-run organization to the South that did things the right way. And the Dolphins decided we'll do everything the opposite because, we know what we're doing. They don't. We're king sport. But you're right. They are not a destination at the moment. I think they can be more of one because I think that McDaniel is going to attract players in that way. But you can't view yourself that way until you've won a playoff game over the last 20 years. This comes in from Ethan as well. By the way, these are not my comments. So when the Dolphins get mad at me, I don't want them thinking these are mine. Dolphins really looking like bums right now. We should go in all our Raiders and Chargers. I want to have patience and say we'll get someone, but I'm losing faith. I'm going to give them till the end of this period. Okay. I do like some of the things that they've done. I like the emphasis on the run game. That needs to happen. Okay. I think they got, again, in Wilson, I think they got a receiver at a fair price based on where he's been and potential. But to me, if they don't get a veteran offensive lineman at this stage, a veteran tackle, I shouldn't say lineman, they got a guard. If they don't get a veteran tackle, okay, then yes, free agency is a failure. I'm not going to argue otherwise. They have to get one. Okay, they have to get one. All right, do we have anything else here, Benny, or is that it? Because we don't have Lewis. You overslept? Here we go. Chalk. Even with the money, no, we got that one already. We're doubling up here. Here we go. I heard the Tua. Here we go. Samuel comes in. As far as Tua goes, we're not wasting our time with Tua. All Super Bowl teams with their quarterback had a lot O-line and a running game. Watch Super Bowl 22, Washington Redskins with Doug Williams. I don't know if there's a second part to this comment, but I know where he's going. Here's my view on Tua, okay? We never heard of Doug Williams before. Well, we did hear of Doug Williams, okay? He put up a lot of numbers with the Bucs, but they never won anything. They never won at all. And they went to the Super Bowl. In that Super Bowl, they had two running backs that had over 100 yards. Yes. Was that Timmy Smith, I believe? And Doug Williams did play action. I mean, there's a lot of examples of this. Here's my view on Tua, okay? And this is a little similar to my view with the Heat right now. Winning a Super Bowl with Tua is not the easiest thing. It's not the conventional way to go, okay? Just like the Heat trying to win a championship now without a top 10 player, and they don't have one. They've got some top 20 players, but they don't have one. The Heat trying to win a championship without a superstar is not the easiest way. But in both cases, it's been proven that it can be done. Okay. In the case of the NFL, there are plenty of Jeff Hostetlers and Brad Johnsons, okay, that have won Super Bowls because the rest of the team, or Trent Dilfers, because the rest of the team was overwhelming in some areas and competent in all the other areas. And in the Heat's case, there are examples like the 2004 Pistons, the 2014 Spurs, the 2019 Raptors that you can win, although the Raptors maybe with Kawhi is a different example, but you can win without a top 5 or top 10 player at the time. It's not the easiest way. It's not the easiest way, but it can be done. All right, I'll take one more, Manny, and then we're going to go. Thanks, Manny Chang, for producing. If we have one more. If not, here we go. It's Shake. It's Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain's hiring to calm down the fan base. I really don't think it's that. I think it's, and I know Sam and Pat pretty well, and they wouldn't be used like that. I actually think that this is a good thing. I like that they've done it, and it's not like these are not ceremonial positions for Sam and Pat. Like, they're both good at that. Like, Sam Madison's won a Super Bowl in that role, okay, as a defensive backs coach. Patrick Surtain built a powerhouse program at a private school here in South Florida. I mean, he can coach, okay? And I know Pat. I know both these guys very well. Okay? This was the era that I covered. I have enormous respect for both of them. I think they're great additions. I don't think it's like the orange carpet or something like that they're trying to paper over other things. They went into free agency, I think, with a plan. I think they've executed most of it. But except the biggest part. That's where I'm at. I don't think that the Sam and Pat signings have anything to do with it. And I'm glad that they did it. And I think they should have done stuff like that years ago. And I think they got the right 2 guys for it. So that's a cool story. I'm not going to take away from that one. I would just like to see them sign an offensive lineman. That's really where I'm at today. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining here today. Of course, we also mentioned before we go, prizepicks.com. Use code 5, FIVE. Thanks to our sponsors, not everything, tradeshows.com, although you can still go there, too. We still support them. Signs Broward, FortLauderdale.com, and, of course, GetSalis.com for your electrolytes. Use the code 5, FIVE. Have a good day, everybody.